Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host, Bryce Dunn, and joining me, as always, is Chris Williams. Chris, how have you been?
Bryce has been okay, thanks. I've been to Bulgaria for a week, never been there before, so it was an interesting experience. It was very hot, and I got to watch CSK Sofia play, which was excellent. So yeah, I've had a busy week.
Oh, wow. That's very exciting indeed. Joining Chris and I, as always, is Manu Veth.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. I hear you've been on your travels as well.
Yeah, Vancouver on Saturday, Sunday. So busy times on Football Grad Network. Chris, you in London tomorrow. I'm back to Vancouver on Wednesday. So we'll have lots of live coverage from around the world this week on Football Grad. So which is great, but it also means it's very busy.
Yes, indeed. Europa League, Champions League. We'll be talking about both coming up on this show tonight. And yes, Football Grad will be covering all of the games. Very exciting.
Well, Bryce, you're the Thursday game, aren't you?
Yes, I've managed to get myself a ticket, thankfully, to go see Cologne again. So they'll be taking on Arsenal at the Emirates, which, I feel that we'll be talking about Cologne in a little bit too, because they've had a bit of a troublesome time, will we say, at the start of this Bundesliga campaign. But I'll try and post as much as I can from that game as well. But let's go back a little bit. Just before the Bundesliga resumed, we had international games, which, yes, most of you will probably be thinking, I'm glad that that's out of the way and it came too early in the season and whatnot. But I feel that we have to talk about the two results. Germany did win both games. They won 2-1 against the Czech Republic away and then managed to win 6-0 against Norway. So two very positive results, but not exactly a great performance in the 2-1 win in Prague, was it, Manu?
Yeah, it wasn't. You know, unfortunately, some fans thought they could use this game as what should we even call that? To use their somewhat disgusting political messages, right-wing political messages. Some of the chants that I don't want to repeat here that were just completely wrong, and did not represent Germany at all. And I thought that was very disappointing. And sadly, you know, these are fans that come from, you know, clubs in East Germany where there is a lot more problems with right-wing fans than there is in the rest of the country. And we don't want to see that at football. We don't want to see football to be used for political messages, period. What, you know, right-wing political messages is definitely don't want to see. And, you know, targeting certain players because of their immigration background or using Germany's national teams, to, you know, for chants, that represent right-wing ideology. No, kick that out. And I thought the German national team, reacted really well to this. Mats Hummels basically told the players to walk straight off the pitch after the game and not, usually they go over to the fans and say thank you, which is, you know, a tradition that Chris has pointed out in the past is something very typical German. they decided not to do that. And then Joachim Löw expressed his disappointment very strongly. The German FA came out with very strong words. And I actually thought the reaction by the fans in Stuttgart was the best. You use to basically show a different face of Germany, a positive and open face of Germany. And the country is by no means perfect, but it's a world open country. It's a country that has accepted several hundred thousands of refugees in the last 2 years with open arms. And that's the kind of Germany we want to see represented when the national team plays. And, Chris, we talked about that reaction compared to what the English FA, how they reacted after the Dortmund game, the 10 German bombers in the sky and all that kind of stuff that we don't want to see anymore either. And, even in the UK, there's a great Guardian article out, complimenting really how the German FA handled this situation.
Well, yeah, if you think back to when it was England played Germany in Dortmund, wasn't it? And there was some unsavoury chanting. It was sort of skirted around by the English FA or by the FA. They held a media briefing, I think it was 3 months later, to discuss the ongoings that happened. So, yeah, and Gareth Southgate spoke after that match, and it was a little bit fluffy. And unfortunately, the England players around the Premier League just go and play football. I don't think they tend to care what goes on in the stands, etc. They certainly didn't have the sort of approach that Mats Hummels did. But the German FA, I think they needed to make a stand against this. The DFB, didn't they, pretty quickly? And it was done. And it was interesting that, this happened an away fixture, because it certainly wouldn't have been stood for inside of Germany, Manu, would it? Where, in fact, the stuff that was said is illegal.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that was said was illegal. I'm not going to repeat it here because it's, I don't want to give that a platform, but it is illegal. And, we know where these fans are coming from. Sadly, a lot of them are from Dynamo Dresden, a club that has been in the crosshairs because, unsavory fan chants. And, we remember there's some anti-DFB protests going on, and some of them are justified, just have something to do in general with how the DFB is treating the game and the marketing wave and all that that's taking a hold of the game in Germany. And so some of the protesting against the DFB, yes, okay, but they have they had a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I believe, the Dynamo Dresden fans had this fight against DFB, and they all came in army camouflage to a game, and this is disgusting. We don't want to see that, and we don't want these people to represent Germany, because they don't. They think that their behavior is German and represents Germany, but that Germany died 70 years ago. And it should stay dead. So, we don't want to see these kind of things happening, in Germany games. And I don't think these people represent Germany at all. The national team does. What Mats Hummels did and how the players reacted, I think that was exemplary. To stand up to it the way they did, that was fantastic. And, I think that's just great. Mats Hummels right away, you could see it on the cameras. You see him waving over and come on, we're going straight into the dressing room. We're not gonna give any one of those guys even an ounce of support for what they have said. And I thought that was perfect. And, to realize that, I think there's something quite positive about that, and it's Hummels has been a big leader for the side for a while, and he gets the sense of the surroundings. I thought that was class on his part.
Yeah, that's it. I think the German fans were just let down by a very twisted bunch, and no doubt we'll see very well behaved fans traveling across Europe this week. We all know just how fantastic they can be when they visit these grounds, and I'm sure that will continue. Guys, let's leave international football behind. Even though I'd love to talk about Northern Ireland and their upcoming game to Germany, but that'll all come in time.
We'll talk about that, Bryce. Don't worry.
Yeah, we definitely will. But anyway, I'll calm my excitement. Let's talk about Bundesliga, which is exciting enough. So we've seen, Bayern Munich drop some points to Hoffenheim. This was pretty exciting. I mean, we've seen Ancelotti's men really not have a great preseason. We said that, maybe things won't go to plan this year for them. And it certainly didn't on this occasion, them losing 2-0. And yeah, I've got quite a performance for Hoffenheim. I seen the game, and to be honest, I didn't think that well, Bayern offered very much at all. Manu, we were talking about the game, weren't we? And they really came up stuck, really, didn't they?
Yeah. I actually thought they started it quite well, and they had a few chances, and I thought, well, they're going to probably score soon. And then Hoffenheim hit them. And I thought that Hoffenheim had a pretty positive game plan. Nagelsmann, of course, came up with another way to undo Bayern, and they had to do it without Sandro Wagner. But, I actually thought that Ut was exactly what they needed. They needed someone with speed, to go at them. And I think I actually wrote that in the preview that, Alaba not being in the lineup, would give them a lot of opportunities because Rafinha doesn't have, the speed, to keep up with that kind of, with those kind of players. So, to just, Bayern seems so static, and, Hoffenheim is so good when they play that quick transition game, and they hit them really good. I mean, Marc Uth has been quickly becoming, one of the biggest names, in the Bundesliga right now. I mean, he scored wonderful goals against Hoffenheim, and he's now scored against, Bayern. And, is quickly becoming a player that we can maybe even see in a national team in the near future. But it's funny because this result in some ways was kind of predictable because we've been talking about this, coming, haven't we, Chris? And I know I sent out a tongue-in-cheek tweet right after the Dortmund game, and we'll talk about Dortmund in a moment, that had included a GIF with Manuel Neuer lifting the German trophy because Dortmund dropped point, and I'm like, well, here we go, now everyone is going to say Bayern dominance and all that. But that point in Freiburg, given the way Bayern are playing right now, could be worth its weight in gold at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, it could. And back to this game, what I was particularly impressed with was how Nagelsmann had learned a little bit, because he went with three at the back for the Champions League playoff against Liverpool, and was torn apart by a formation of a 4-3-3. Now, on that day, he went 3-5-2. For this particular one, he just dropped very slightly and played a 3-1-4-2, which I think gave him a better control in the middle of the park. And put into that Bayern were particularly poor from about, I would say, the 25-minute mark onwards, which is, probably whereabouts where their first goal came from. But I've been really impressed by Kramaric. I think he has made a fantastic move permanently to Hoffenheim, and it just defies belief why I don't think he could do it when he was at Leicester, which was very strange for me. And yeah, this has been, I'd like to say, a shock result, but Manu, you're quite right. It's been not a shock result. This very much reminds me of Bayern Munich last season. Do you remember when we first started doing this podcast, we said Bayern were boring and they were a little bit predictable, and we all thought that Leipzig could push them all the way, and they pretty much did towards the back, apart from the back end of the season. But I now worry that Ancelotti may not see Christmas. I think this is probably the third time I've said it. We're now on match day 3, and it's the third time I'm going to say he might not make Christmas.
Well, there is that statement by Mario Basler, although I don't know how many Weissbier he had when he did say that. He says there's this crazy rumor that Ancelotti has signed a pre-contract in China. It's the first time I've ever heard anything from it, but it was talked about and it is in the German media, so I just want to mention it. I don't want to be told I'm ignorant. But I'm not sure. I mean, there's all this talk that Julian Nagelsmann or maybe even Thomas Tuchel could come in long term. Ancelotti, it's also static, it's also predictable. And with Guardiola, it took a long time until he was kind of found out, right? And that was also because the side was starting to decline. And with Ancelotti, I mean, you always know the lineup he's going to have. He's always going to have that 4-3-3. He's putting Müller out wide. He doesn't seem to know where to put Müller. And that is, for me, the development of Thomas Müller. And we spoke about this, 2 weeks ago, that we had a player who had one of the best scoring rates in Europe. And now under Carlo Ancelotti, seems like a guy who can't play football anymore. And that's because he's not utilized the right way. And Ancelotti, and you hear this a lot when you talk to people in Munich, he is so stuck on positions. You know, he puts on the 4-3-3 formation, but whereas when you have a coach like Guardiola, the 4-3-3 formation is not 100% stuck, right? Like some players will be fluid, players will be allowed to play off position, etc. You don't know exactly if that formation that you get is actually the formation that is going to be used. Same with Nagelsmann or Thomas Tuchel even. With Ancelotti, that 4-3-3 is a 4-3-3, period. You know, Italian tactics has to be static, has to be stiff. And that's poison, in my opinion, for Thomas Müller. And that is, you know, the way Müller is playing, I just don't get it. I just don't understand how a player of this caliber is being so misused in the system. And that could be, for me, you know, we should start a hashtag free Müller, because he needs to have freedom to play. You know, he's a Raumdeuter. He's a player who plays in between 2 or 3 positions. You know, they asked him once at the Süddeutsche interview, what's your position? He said he couldn't define it because he's a completely different kind of player, and you need to utilize that. And Ancelotti, I don't know, he just can't figure it out. And that's for me is a big one. And, you know, you see that with so many of the other players. You know, James, I think it's a fantastic signing, but I'm not sure where he's gonna put James now, right, Chris? I mean, you spoke about how to use James, but that would mean that someone else in that system wouldn't play. And, you know, the 4-3-3 that he uses is not exactly ideal for someone like James either.
Well, no, because originally we thought he would either go on the left or right hand side of the 4-3-3, you know, of the front three. And I didn't think he would mess around with Müller so much, but he has. And once again, when the substitution's made, it's Thomas Müller that comes off for James Rodriguez to come on. He's chosen to go with Koeman on the other side, and obviously he's not going to drop Lewandowski, although Lewandowski's not a happy man. If you look at what he's been saying this week, he thought that Bayern should have made a lot more transfers, and he's sort of lamenting the fact that they haven't brought in enough class and enough quality. But I don't think they need to bring in any more class and quality at the moment. And man, you're quite right. They just need to utilise their players properly. And you know, Muller's one of the last Bavarians in Bayern, and I can see the point where the players will lose faith in Ancelotti and they will lose confidence in him. And once he loses the Bayern Munich dressing room, I think that's pretty much his cards on the table. But it's interesting to say that he came out in his press conference today, his Champions League press conference, and pretty much rubbished that story, saying he's not off to China. But there's no smoke without fire sometimes, and whether he's heard the story or not, it's out there for it to be used as a stick to beat him with now, and it might be a good escape route for him. But I thought James Rodriguez would be an excellent signing. I think he is an excellent signing, although he's got a little bit injured early on. He's just not been given the chance again, and it's because I think he's so rigid in this system where, if Muller's going to play, he's going to play on the right hand side. He's not going to be able to play as a second striker. He's not going to adapt the system to allow him to do that. He's definitely not going to drop Lewandowski, because obviously we all know what a fantastic goal scorer is. And then now he's sort of bringing in Kingsley Coman on the side, and Frank Ribery's dropped to the bench, as we all thought he may do, and Robben as well, and predicted that in the early article when Rodriguez came in, that they're two of the aging players. But I think there is room in the Bayern side for all of these fantastic players if they can be merged and managed and brought in successfully. And it just seems odd, some of the positions that he's putting out, and some of the substitutions. You can live or die by his substitutions. His substitutions with a bench like Bayern have, I just don't see why he didn't make substitutions maybe a little earlier, because the game was already pretty much gone by the time the final two substitutions came on. They were 2-0 down, and they didn't really look like they were going to come back into it. So I don't just think it's a problem with the rigidity of his system. It's the fact that he's choosing to adapt it too late. And once again, he's sent good young players out on loan because he's not willing to work with young players. He wants to work with established stars, but now these established stars don't seem to be pretty happy with him. So yeah, it's not looking good. And speaking to guys that cover Bayern Munich that I know privately, they have the similar opinion that it all could be coming undone for Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, I've heard rumblings that he has lost the dressing room already, and that's you can see that sort of the way they're playing. The intensity isn't there.
Manu, may I ask them? Obviously, they're not a relegation battling side over the years that change managers regularly during the season. But Chris kind of mentioned that Ancelotti may get the chop before Christmas. Is this something that Bayern have done before?
No.
If so, would they keep, or would they maybe keep him to the end of the season, or get maybe his number 2 to kind of fill in and then get a more long-term replacement? Because I can't imagine the likes of, if they are after Nagelsmann, who has been linked with them time after time, I couldn't imagine him leaving the likes of Hoffenheim mid-season, if you get me.
Traditionally, the coach, when if things go south for Bayern, traditionally the coach's head gets chopped around match day 28 to 30. So that's when we'll have
which makes more sense.
Yeah, and that's usually when it happens. Even Klinsmann had that much time. So that's usually when the axe comes down. Hoeneß and Rummenigge are patient people, so they'll give him time. But if they have a sense that the goals can't be reached around match day 28 onwards, expect that heads will roll. So I think he will get until then, and I think that Bayern will be thereabouts until then. They will play some games where they easily win, but anyone who's tactically adept will beat them this year. That's for me. It's so obvious, and Bayern need a different coach. They don't. That 4-3-3 system is not for them. Actually, the way Nagelsmann plays his side, or Thomas Tuchel played Dortmund last side, that formation would be perfect for Bayern.
But you said about tactically astute teams coming and possibly beating them this year. Is Anderlecht going to be one of those sides?
No. I wrote the preview for this game, and Bayern are dangerous, the most dangerous when they come off a defeat. And Anderlecht is no disrespect to Anderlecht, but that's not an opposition. And my prediction was 5-0 for this game for Bayern at home. And I'm pretty sure they will get that kind of result. They will blow them away. And this is no disrespect to Anderlecht, but that's, we talk the quality on that team is immense. And, Anderlecht are a good team in Belgium, but they're not strong enough to compete with Bayern.
Yeah, I think that would be a hell of a shock, wouldn't it? And yeah, it would bring Ancelotti closer to the chop, we say. But Chris, you said that Nagelsmann seemed to have learned a little in the last few weeks. A hell of a performance for his side. Yeah, they played very well. They've got Braga midweek. This is the game that you would imagine that they should win it, right?
Well, you would hope they would win it, but once again, they're inexperienced in Europe. So European football can be a challenge at times, and it can also be exceptionally surprising, or it can go quite well. I would like to think that Hoffenheim have enough to beat Braga this particular time out, especially after beating Bayern 2-0, and they will have learned a lot at home against Liverpool, but I think they'll have learned an even more greater amount of lessons when they played away at Anfield, and I would expect Nagelsmann to put those learning points into action, because we all know what a great tactically astute coach he is, and I would be surprised if he were to make similar mistakes. So I think they could go and get a victory, and that would start them off well in their Europa League campaign. I think it's important for them not to lose this game, because that may get their heads down in Europe, and that's exactly what we don't want for Hoffenheim, because if let off the leash, they could be, as strong as any team in the Europa League. And I predicted early on that they would go out to Liverpool, mostly because Liverpool's my team, so that was more of hope than anything else. But I think the Europa League suits Hoffenheim a lot better than it does the Champions League. They'll get their breathing ground to develop in the second tier system.
Yeah, actually, it's funny, Chris, that you say that, because Nagelsmann said the same thing on Sunday, I believe. So he seemed to be on accord with you there. He said the same thing for the development of the club, the level that the club are at right now. Last season was a bit of a fluke that they slipped into that Champions League spot, and he admitted himself that, where they are developing as a team right now, the level that they have, the players that they have, the budget that they have, the Europa League is a better breeding ground for them, and a better spot to, make that next step to maybe in 1 or 2 years be a Champions League side. Yeah,
and it's key that they get maybe the next 2 to 3 seasons before they can even get back in the Champions League, if they can get the experience in the Europa League, or if they do what they've done again last season, they get to that 4th spot and then they drop out into the Europa League at some point after that. You never know. But I think consistently to be in the Europa League for the next 2 to 3 seasons would be a fantastic building ground for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, wouldn't it just? Let's just hope that they can get that campaign off to a winner. And as Chris said, I quite fancy them to go quite far in there if they, if they get their heads right. But let's speak about Dortmund. They were obviously playing Freiburg the weekend. Chris, things didn't quite go as planned. I mean, it was, I believe it was it 27 shots they had, but it was 0-0. What was it? Just one of those days, just Freiburg just sat back, shut up shop, and that was it, especially after their red card, and Dortmund a little bit unlucky, or is there bigger concerns there?
There's a bit of both, Bryce, I think. You can't have 78% of possession throughout the whole game and register as many shots as they did. 12 shots at goal. It's only 3 on target, 9 went wide, 2 were saved. So, they had 7 corner kicks as well. So set pieces, Dortmund should be very good at. They had 11 set pieces in and around the box they could have sorted from. But it was a strange one. I don't think I've seen a team have that much possession and not force it through. There's a couple of really good pictures from the stadium of how Freiburg dropped right back, and we all know that if you have a back 5 and then you even go as a 4, which they did at times, and you go very, very tight, it's hard to play between the lines. I think that's what Dortmund found, that it was hard to play between the lines. But for anybody watching, if you want to stop Borussia Dortmund from playing, especially this new exciting way that Peter Bosz has got them playing, it's going to be drop them deep. And I think there's other people finding that out throughout the whole of Europe in different leagues, that if you put 5 and 4 men, so 9 in essence behind the ball, it's hard to break down. And I think it was just a learning curve for a young Dortmund side, and I'll be pretty sure that if that happens to them again, they'll be working on the training ground to put this right. But we saw a brilliant use of VAR, which I think we sort of bashed it on match day 1. Match day 2, it sort of came into its own a little bit. But I think for this particular game, the VAR replay, so overriding the yellow into a red, I think was fundamental, because the more I see that challenge on Schmelzer, the worse it gets. So if you could give a double red, I'd probably be giving one of them by now for it.
Yeah, that was a clear red card. The rule actually says if you go challenge for the ball and you hit the opposition player above the ankle, it's apparently a straight red card according to the rule book. But it's so hard to see in real time. So VAR, the way it was used, and I actually thought it was good that the referees in Köln basically gave the referee Cortus the message and said we looked at this again, it's a red. Because Schmelzer was on the ground being treated anyways, right? There wasn't enough time to do it without a delay. So I thought it was actually an exemplary use for VAR in that occasion. And it was a clear red card. I don't know why Freiburg complained about it, although I guess they wanted to create that kind of heated atmosphere, the underdog atmosphere, to keep Dortmund from scoring, which they did quite well. I actually thought, it's interesting, I just finished the preview for Dortmund-Tottenham, and usually Dortmund would be playing on a field that's quite small, like the Schwarzwaldstadion's field. Dortmund were also playing uphill in the second half, because the one side of the field is actually higher than the other side, right? So, that was one factor, but Dortmund were also very static. I thought that they didn't do enough to really go at Freiburg with some speed. And then, there wasn't any creativity, but that's also because it's such a narrow field. And White Hart Lane, where Tottenham usually play, have an even smaller field than that. But thankfully for Dortmund, they're playing at Wembley, which is a massive pitch. And, that's going to be better for Dortmund because they like to stretch their opposition, right? They like to play it wide. They like to use, and Yarmolenko is apparently going to start, on Wednesday. So that's going to give them quite a lot of power on the wings. And I think that's going to be suiting them better overall, right? So, but Freiburg were really clever. They were really clever to basically, use the small space that they had to just protect themselves really and get the result that they could really have hoped for. That 0-0 draw at 1 point, is it worth a goal? Is its weight worth in gold for them? But, it's funny because I was really disappointed by the result because I thought here we go. Bayern are going to pull away by 2 points. But Chris, that point now looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. And if you take into account that they lost Bartra early on and then obviously Schmelzer through the tackle, they did make, 2 unforced changes that will have thrown their system completely. Although, the players are used to playing with each other. If you work on something prior to a match day and you go through your match day preparations in the dressing room, to make 2 substitutions inside the first 30 minutes, in essence, throws quite a lot off. And I thought the guys that came on did, all right, and they were okay when they came on. I'll be really interested, like you say, Manu, to see how they play against Tottenham on Wednesday night at Wembley. It's a massive stadium, it's a massive pitch, so we'll see how they get on. But I think, Tottenham Hotspur have got a real problem playing at Wembley at the moment, and I think we've mentioned it before. I think it also happened to Arsenal when Arsenal had this problem in the Champions League. Is that players, no matter where you're from in the world, there's certain stadiums you want to play in. I think we can say they want to play in the Nou Camp, the Bernabeu. You got some of the South American stadiums, especially the ones in Brazil where the World Cup final was held. And Wembley is on that list. So you're an away team going to Wembley and you're automatically going to raise your game. I think someone like Christian Pulisic and even Aubameyang, and the people who they got Götze as well. Sahin's been there. Dahoud's going to be there. Yarmolenko's going to start. They're all players that will go, right, we're at Wembley, and that's the game raised by 10%, which I think Tottenham will have a real problem controlling Dortmund on Wednesday night. Manu, what did you go for? I'm going to go for 3-1 to Dortmund.
I have 2-1 for Dortmund.
2-1. Okay, yeah. So we've both gone for a Dortmund win. I think if you're Tottenham Hotspur in that Champions League group, you are going to be fearful of a dropout to the Europa League at the first possible instance. I can't see anything else but a Dortmund win. And I'm pretty sure that it won't have been the best warm-up, the game in Freiburg, and it is a tight ground. I was there only a couple of weeks ago myself, and it's a very old traditional ground, and it'll be the complete opposite on Wednesday night in London. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
Yeah, obviously Spurs played away at the weekend, managed a 3-0 against Everton, looked rather impressive. But I've got to agree, guys. I think in Wembley, I reckon Dortmund are gonna do them, and I reckon I'm gonna call 2-0. Will I say? But exciting times. I think that's a very exciting group that they're in. Guys, let's move on to Leipzig then. Last year's runners-up. Boy, did they score 2 fantastic goals over the weekend. Manu, you and I especially spoke why Timo Werner isn't being regarded even higher than what he is. I mean, that breakaway goal was outrageous.
Yeah, I remember watching that, and when he got the ball and he started running, and when he broke free, because he literally did break free, such an intense speed, and going at the goalie and putting it away, in the coldest of fashion, and fantastic goal. The first goal by Keita was already great, but this goal is something else. And I've been wondering, Werner he scored now, I believe it's 3-3, this season. And he scored 21 goals and 7 assists last season, 28 points overall scorer points, which made him 5th in the league in scoring. He was 20 years old when he did it last year. He's 21 now. And I was just thinking, we talk about Dembele and Mbappe or these young, super talented strikers. But, if Dembele, 9th best scorer in the Bundesliga last season, goes for 148 million euros to Barcelona, what is Werner worth? Like, what is his value considering those numbers? And he doesn't just do that for Leipzig. He plays for Germany. He scored 2 against Norway. He's the top scorer at the Confederations Cup. Yes, some people thought that was a Mickey Mouse tournament. You just tell it to the people that were playing it, the Chileans and the Portuguese, and that were bringing the A team. Same with Mexico. These are top teams that were there. And Werner did really well at this tournament, and he's, continued that form now in the World Cup qualification. And, if you want to put a price tag on it, Max, who we know quite well, he said 60 to 90 million euros. But Chris, I think that is massively under the value. When you put him into that category, he should be in that category of the Dembeles and the Mbappes of this world. But for some reason, he is not.
I don't know if that's a little bit of ignorance on other people's part, not ours, obviously, because we've seen him score in the flesh. We saw it last May, this May. He may just gone, and he was excellent that day. And as you quite rightly said, he went on to the Confederations Cup where he was excellent, and he's carried this on. And there's a lot of people who've been keeping an eye on him, and I wouldn't agree that he's up there in the hundreds of millions, and that's purely because I don't think any player's worth that. I think the Neymar effect in the summer window, I would hope that will be drawn a line under, and transfer figures will start to come down to a more reasonable level. If we can call what Pogba went for or Lukaku went for reasonable, probably not. But now, if he was to leave Leipzig, they would be in the strongest position to command whatever fee they wanted for them. And there would be teams in Germany vying for him, as well as I maybe think even some of the Spanish teams, as the English sides, who would be happy to pay that. Obviously, PSG in France would be happy to pay that. The goal is good enough. By the way he breaks away, it's the way he breaks away at the speed he does, and then the speed he hits the ball at. Because sometimes we'll see players, if they break away from just outside their own half and they run, maybe 45, even 60 yards if they're running crossfield like he was, and they'll then have the fatigue after that run to just slot the ball away. He actually powered it past, which was. If you look at Naby Keita's goal early on, that was a power pass, but that was from almost a standing start. But Timo Werner's done this from a sprint, which makes it even better. I think we all know, and anybody that listens to us regularly will know how much value we put on Timo Werner as a player. He's certainly someone that I would like in my team. Any team, if I was picking one, I think he would be my centre forward at the moment. And if he has a season like it's shaping up to be, he could be challenging for the top goal scorer at the end of the year again, especially now, with Lewandowski not particularly happy. You would think at Bayern Munich, Aubameyang's got one eye looking elsewhere, I think, still. So Timo Werner, this could be a season to real make a stance against that. And especially, if he starts doing well like he's been playing in the Champions League, Leipzig will be having a lot of people hammering their door down very soon requesting transfers.
Yeah. His composure, I thought, was fantastic. But can I just ask very quickly, Manu, to kind of get away from Leipzig, do you think last year we've seen Germany, have a lot of passing ability, composure on the ball, but maybe not a final end product. They didn't really have that striker that they needed. Is Timo Werner going to be the answer to that, do you feel?
Yeah, I have an article on that up on Fußballstart, and I think so. Yes, he's going to be the starting striker for Germany at the World Cup. And I think that World Cup, if it goes as we all expect, it will go for Germany. There's always the possibility that you have one bad day. But if it goes the way we all expect it will go for Germany, expect a lot of Timo Werner transfer talk next summer. I guess everyone who listens to the pod knows what I'm referring to. Germany is likely to win the World Cup next summer, and that would mean that Timo Werner is likely going to be the top scorer in Russia again. And I mean, then the number will be through the roof. So that's a development to look out for. But, also Champions League midweek, playing Monaco, speaking of Mbappe, his former club Monaco. And I think that's going to be a real cracker of a game. And I'm very excited, really looking forward to. I know Monaco's lost a lot of players. John Mackenzie has the preview up on Fußballstadt already, so go check that out. But I think it's going to be a cracker of a game at the Red Bull Arena on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of being a classic and a bit of a goal fest potentially there. But I mean, the three of us have said that we reckon Leipzig are going to surprise a lot of people that don't really know so much about them. Didn't follow them as closely as we did last year, and should just surprise some people with the beautiful football that they can play in Europe. So it's going to be exciting times for Leipzig, I feel. A team that's less exciting and a bit troublesome is Cologne. The Billy Goats, they've had a bit of a horrid start. 3 games, 3 losses. They're not scoring goals. They're controlling games, as we mentioned, Manu. They're having plenty of shots, plenty of passes, but they're conceding, and things just really don't look good for them at all at the moment. Chris, do you think that it's just something as simple as Modeste isn't there, and that's the reason that they're faltering?
Well, I don't know. Bryce, you said they haven't had a particularly good start. I think if you get beat 3-0 by Augsburg, you're having a horrendous start no matter, what team you are. Is it more than just missing Anthony Modeste? Well, no, because Anthony Modesto wasn't a defender. I think they've got some real problems, not just up top. I think they've got them at the back. I don't think Cordoba has gelled properly, but I don't know, the way they were torn apart from their midfield, and they've got some big players there. Hector is a fantastic left back. I don't think he's up to speed at the moment. And then, the guys behind him, and Timo Horn's not exactly covered himself in glory lately. I just think there's a real problem at Cologne. And Peter Stoger, we all thought he had such a good season last season, and he did. And Cologne were playing some fantastic football, and I think it's easy to say just because Anthony Modesta's gone, they have no outlet, but they weren't leaking goals like this last season, and it could be a problem for them Thursday night. Their only saving grace could be that I don't think Arsenal will take this competition seriously. The Europa League, it's the first time they're going to have played in it since it's rebranded. They qualify for the Champions League 14 years on the run, so they will see this as an avenue to develop some of their youth players, for which Arsene Wenger has a lot of. But then saying that, Arsene Wenger's under a little bit of pressure at the moment, so he may use this competition just to reinforce that he's still the manager at Arsenal. So it all depends, I think, for them Thursday night. It all depends on their host, Arsenal, how they take it. If they don't take it very seriously, I think Cologne have got a real chance to maybe get something back. I think a win at the Emirates would be a massive boost for them. But at the moment, they just seem to be really struggling in the league, and they haven't impressed me at all yet.
Yeah, Chris, and to go along with that, there's a statistic. So this is actually touches on some of the things that you said, because it can't be down to Modeste. This was the 9th game in a row where they dropped points away from home. So that goes back to last season. Their last victory away from home was a 6-1 victory last season, the beginning of the Rückrunde against Darmstadt. So, this is something that has been going on for quite some time, and doesn't really bode well considering that they are playing in London, right? So, yeah, maybe something a bit to worry about. The one thing that I did see is that they've gone from 48% average possession to 72 in the first 3 games. Not sure how exactly they did that. But it looks like the game has changed quite a bit without Modeste. Cordoba is more player who holds the ball rather than, presses forward quickly. So that changes the entire static of the game. And then also I think the expectations, when they go to a place like Augsburg, they're the favorites all of a sudden, right? Last season, they weren't the favorites for most of the games. So it changes the way, they're received, but it also changes the way they play. So I think, you said haven't gelled quite yet. I think that really puts the finger on the pulse. That's exactly it. They're just not gelled yet. And some of the issues, they just have to switch off. They have to figure out a way to win away from Cologne. Cologne is such a magnificent stadium. Bryce, you've been there. You know how great of an atmosphere is and how much it can carry a team, but they have to learn to do the same thing away from home. And we'll see how. I'm really, really curious about this game against Arsenal, because I'm not sure Wenger can afford to play the youths. And I'm really curious to see what kind of Arsenal team is going to be put on the field. So interesting game for Thursday for sure.
I think the problem that they've got, Manu, and it's a serious problem for anyone that supports Cologne or follows them on this podcast, will know that now they are match day 3 and they are rooted to the bottom of the table. They're going to go to the Emirates and play Arsenal, and then where are they going after that? They're going to Borussia Dortmund on a Sunday, 6 p.m. German kickoff time. It's one of the big matches. It's one of the big TV matches of the weekend. Everybody will be watching it. Signal Iduna Park will be full, as it is every weekend, and it'll be a real test. If they don't get anything there, they're now into match day 4, and we're looking at over 10% of the match days have gone already, and we are rock bottom of the table with no points. And once that gets into the player's mind and into the staff and management and coach's mind, it's real hard to recover from that. So they need to pick up some points quickly, and I can't see where that's going to come from in the next week or so.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's it. I was just about to ask. If we look at both games and we were to say, obviously for winning each of them, you get 3 points. Do either of you see them getting 6 or even 2 points in the next 2 games?
No. That's
the Champions League and the league.
No, I don't think so, Bryce. I think that going to London under normal circumstances, I would say, Wenger is going to feel the youth, but he can't do that. The Arsenal fan base is so poisoned with negativity right now that they have to win games no matter what. Right?
I feel what's happening in England is that you've got too many teams challenging for the top 4 places. So the bigger teams that then miss out on the Champions League are starting to now look at the Europa League and go, actually, if we put a good charge in this and we get in, it doesn't matter where we finish in the league, we'll get back into the Champions League. Which, if you finish 7th or you finish 12th, for those teams, and you get back into the Champions League, that's almost bigger than your league position. So it could be dangerous. If Arsenal take this seriously, it could be troublesome for Cologne. But yes, I'll be there taking photos and hoping that they can pick up something. But guys, let's move on to then speak about the other Europa League game in Hertha Berlin. They're going to be playing at Bilbao. And but this, I think it's been a pretty positive start to the season for Hertha. They're quite often labelled as boring. Manu, do you see them being a bit more successful in Europe than their colleagues or German colleagues Cologne?
Well, they got Bilbao right on Thursday, which is the toughest opposition. Let me recall what else did they got. They got Östersund, if I'm not mistaken, and What's the 4th team in the Europa League? Bryce, do you have it ahead of you, in front of you somewhere?
Oh, I should know that off the top of my head, shouldn't I? It's
Sparta Borisov, isn't it?
Yes, that's the very one.
Yeah.
There we go. Both these teams should be. I've kind of wrote the preview for this one, and it's really both those sides should be going through Bilbao with their experience, in the Europa League over the last few years and in Europe in general. And they've got a pretty strong side. And Hertha have a strong side as well, especially compared to the other 2 sides that have just been mentioned. And I don't see why they shouldn't be pushing through. It's going to be who tops that group between these 2 sides. But yeah, Hertha, they've won 1, drew 1, lost 1. They drew at the weekend after being ahead and let Werner come back into it. But I have a feeling that they might start this one off on a positive note and get a win, even though Bilbao are Well, no real underdogs, shall we say. Chris, how do you feel Hertha may get on against such opposition as Bilbao?
Oh, well, it depends what Hertha team steps out. If we get the traditional Hertha team before Christmas, they should be okay. But if they slip into their post-Christmas form, then, it could be a bit of a goal route for them against Bilbao. But we hope they can do well. I mean, I really hope they can do well, because we've talked at great length how, such a stadium like the Olympiastadion deserves, European football. I think Champions League football would be ideal, not just for the stadium, but for the city. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen too soon. But I think they should be okay Europa League. I'd like to see them get through maybe to a round of 16. I think they're probably capable of doing that if they put themselves to it. They are one of the stronger sides in the whole of the tiered system in the Europa League. I think they should be more than adequate to get through the group, as you said, and then maybe into the last 16. I think will be good for them to build on. But back to this game, it was the game for all the right reasons, wasn't it? And I think in the end, we ended up talking about the football and not about the refereeing, which seemed to take over a little bit of it. I think we all know how good the referee is, and she was given the platform to show how good she was. And hopefully, I'm hoping now, I don't know why you think about this, Manu, is that, Bibiana Steinhaus just gets left to referee and doesn't get constant media attention that she's this woman, and the Bundesliga itself came out with a woman of the match day, which I thought was a bit odd. I thought they would have been one of the ones to try and push away from this, female referee, because at the end of the day, she is a referee. She's not a female referee. She's a referee. She's head and shoulders above some of her counterparts in the entire system. So I'm glad for her sakes that she had a fantastic day. And she even said in herself, she hopes everything calms down and moves along now. So I'm hoping personally that happens as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Chris, I must say that I seen that push from the Bundesliga as well, and I thought that was a very odd choice. I don't know why they would even bring the attention to that.
Well, no, I get why they've done it, because it is such a historical thing. She's a female refereeing in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. I get it, and we should push that. But she came in, she did a fantastic job. She's proved a weight in worth as much as any other of her male counterparts. And she should just be left alone now to concentrate on refereeing. I think because if the referee becomes bigger than the game, we've got a bit of a problem. And not that that's going to happen here, but she could be on the cusp of being mentioned more than the game that she's officiating, which I wouldn't like to see, because she does have all the qualities to be as big as Kalina, I think, and that might be an over exaggeration from the start, but from when I've seen her officiate, she is very calm, she's very collected, she does officiate the laws of the games very well, and she takes a moment to think about decisions. She never seems to be rash, so I think she's got the potential to go a long way. I just think maybe we shouldn't be looking now at gender and just at equality.
And this is exactly it. The kicker wrote, kicker said, and I think they got it straight on, the hope for normality. And I think that's exactly what it should be. It should be normal, right? She is a highly qualified referee. In my opinion, she should have been in this league 1 or 2 years ago. There was a lot of controversy about the fact that she wasn't, because she was consistently the highest ranked, Bundesliga 2 referee, and didn't get promoted. The way it works in Germany, just like clubs, you have to you get promoted from league to league, right? So, and Bibiana Steinhaus has worked her way up from the very bottom of the men's game. She's also a top referee at the women's game, maybe the best female referee in the world, right? And this is just for the women's game, but the thing is, the fact that we're talking about it here already, it's of course it's really good and positive news. And I thought she did a fantastic job, but we never really doubted that, didn't we? I mean, we cover Bundesliga 2, and we know from Bundesliga 2, where I have watched many games where she refereed, and you don't even notice it anymore that she's on the field. And that's really what we want. And when you look at the echo of some of the player statements that came out afterwards, they were asked about it, and they were like, well, of course she did a great job. We we've been working with her for years now, and she's always done a great job. And why all of a sudden is this an issue? And I can understand why the league is proud, why you would say Woman of the Day. Maybe the headline of that was a bit unfortunate. I guess what they wanted to express, they couldn't have named a Man of the Match or Man of the Week, so I guess they had to revert it. But I think it's really good news that she's finally there, and I would actually say it's been overdue that she is there, because she is a fantastic referee, and no big surprise that she showed that in this match day.
Yeah, I must say, waving a play on for the Hertha Berlin goal, Lecky's goal, was fantastic, and I would be applauding whether that was male or female or whoever the referee was. But I thought that was a very good play by her. And I must say, I enjoyed Julian Nagelsmann's comments on it this week. He was asked about obviously her going into the game, and he said something around the lines of male or female, it shouldn't matter in quality as long as the job is done well, even though a lot of men like to think that makes a difference when it comes to driving. So there you go. Anyway, let's move on. I thought that was quite interesting.
That was a classic Nagelsmann there. But he's right. I mean,
he's a witty fella.
And I think, but you hear that across the board from anyone, and a lot of the players and the coaches seem to be almost annoyed about being asked about this, because it shouldn't be a topic, she should be just treated like all the other referees, and I mean this in all the positive way. And she has shown for so many years in Bundesliga 2 that she's a great referee. Why shouldn't she be able to do it in the Bundesliga?
Well, exactly. Let's just wish her all the best. Okay, guys, so we're just going to move on. We're quickly running out of time here. We're going to drop down to Bundesliga 2 and just have a very quick look here. Dusseldorf, they seem to be having a hell of a start to the season. That's 5 games played, 4-1, 1 draw. Manu, does this come as any surprise to you? Dusseldorf, weren't one of the contenders to go up last season, but they've had a fantastic start, and this weekend they've actually beat what we probably would have said is our favourite to go up in Union Berlin, a 3-2.
Yeah, and Union haven't really looked that convincing this season. Bit of a last-minute crisis. They're struggling to see out games, right? And something that was mentioned in the press in Germany, in particular, the fact that Union are not, able to do the see out games. And I mean, this was a perfect example. They were up until the 78th minute, and then Usami Neuhaus, Felix Neuhaus, of course, the former 1860 youth product, scoring the game winner. And that's not great for Union. Maybe Oshida will bring them some stability when he finally starts playing for them. But I mean, Düsseldorf, they're looking good early on. But Bryce, Bundesliga 2 predictions, very difficult, right? Every week we don't know. Darmstadt, I guess, is a demoted side. That's not the biggest surprise in the world. But Holstein, Kiel are in the top 3, and then right behind that is Arminia Bielefeld. So we'll see again. Chris always gets that right. We'll wait about match day 10, right? And then we can sort of sense where everyone is. But early goings look really fantastic for Fortuna Düsseldorf. Great city, big city. So it'd be good if they could hang in there and maybe get promoted. So it would be a fantastic stadium to visit for us as well. So fingers crossed.
It's just so fluid at the moment, isn't it? Before we get to the middle bit, I mean, Ingolstadt have climbed out to 15th. They were rock bottom at one point. So I think, we can just take the table with a pinch of salt. I'd be very surprised if Union Berlin aren't back up by the top round about match day 10. Maybe you can hold me to that, Bryce.
No, I won't do that. I think this table, as you said, is a little bit too unpredictable, not just at the moment, but throughout the season that can happen. But it's a great start, as Manu said, by Holstein Kiel. They seem to be scoring plenty of goals, but also conceding plenty. But it'd be great to see them have a good season. Them going up, probably a step too far. We look at
Würzburg last season. They had a start like that and got relegated in the end of the year. So, it's true. It's such a hard league to predict. It's such a tight league to predict. That's why we like watching it. That's why, when we are over in Germany later this winter as a team, we'll probably try to go up to some of these games, and Düsseldorf would actually be a fantastic place to visit, right? So, we're hoping to do extensive stay up in the Ruhrpott football ground on tour. And, that will be one of the places we definitely want to visit. So I hope they can keep this going because, the better the team is, the better the atmosphere. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they can hang in there, for as long as possible.
Yeah, most certainly. I think in another 5 games, it's going to be a very different looking table. But that more or less does it for this week. We're just going to go around and do our shout outs as always. Chris, you're going to be at the Chelsea game, aren't you, this week? What else would you like to draw people's attention to, or where can people find you online?
Oh, yes, I'll be at the Chelsea game, which is tomorrow, obviously, as we're recording this Monday night. So, yeah, Tuesday night game, Chelsea against Karabag. So I will be in a press box for that. So please keep an eye on the Football Grad Live account for the link to the minute-by-minute report and then to anything else interesting that falls out of that game. And if anyone wants to follow me, they can. They can see all about my experiences in Bulgaria last week with a football team called Icarus FC. And yeah, you can follow me at Chris78 Williams. And you can also see some great pyro videos from CSK Sofia.
Yeah, they were something else indeed. Manu, what have you got going on this week? No doubt, absolutely loads. But is there anything in particular you'd like to draw people's attention to, and where can they find you and the articles online? Yeah,
so it's all at Football Grad Live. So Chris already mentioned that. And then I am back in Vancouver on Wednesday, together with Tim Bogdachev. We had a great interview with Jura Movsisian, a former Spartak great. So that he spent 7 minutes with us in the dressing room, actually, of all places. MLS is a bit weird for European listeners. You can actually, as press, walk into the dressing room, see all those naked dudes in there, and you can interview them straight after the game. And we actually got to spend 7 minutes with Jura Movsisian. We were polite. We waited until he had his pants on. And that interview will be on the Football Grad podcast, which will be usually is out around Thursday morning, UK time. So that's gonna come. And then, the previews, of course, the Europa League Champions League previews, they are all out on Football Grad, Fußballstadt, and you can find them all at Football Grad Live. And then, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's a ton going on.
Yeah, most certainly. And so I've been your host, Bryce Dunn. You can find me on Twitter at Bryce Dunn11. Manu and I will be a part of the Golanzo Liga MX podcast, which will be out later this week as well. Apart from that, I'll see what I can upload from the Cologne Arsenal game while cheering on Cologne. And yeah, I'll go to Football Grad Live, guys. There's going to be so many articles, so many uploads. Yeah, go there. There's going to be plenty to see and read. Until then, though, we bid you farewell. We'll be back at the same time next week. Auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt, als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen, dich abzuholen.
We can get anything delivered from furniture to toilet paper. And now, adult beverages with Drizzly. Drizzly lets you compare prices from local liquor stores on a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your door in under 60 minutes. And right now, Drizzly's giving all new customers $5 off their first order. Just enter promo code EASY5 at checkout. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.